It is March 25th, 1985, and we are in the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles. Czech director Miloš Forman is receiving an Oscar for the film Amadeus. Though it is not his first Academy Award, this one holds immense significance for him. The making of this film allowed him to return to his native Czechoslovakia after nearly 20 years and reunite with his sons after years of separation. Yes, filming in Czechoslovakia was not easy. Forman's crew was closely monitored by communist secret police. Yet, he managed to create a truly magnificent work. The largely fictional story of the rivalry between composers Salieri and Mozart captivated everyone who saw it. And on March 25th, 1985, it completely dominated the Academy Awards ceremony. Miloš Forman was born in Čáslav in 1932. His father, Rudolf, was a high school teacher, and his mother, Anna, ran a guest house in northern Bohemia, where Forman spent much of his childhood. However, life was harsh on him from the very beginning. Both of his parents were sent to concentration camps, where they died. Young Miloš, with his suitcase in hand, moved from one relative to another until 1946, when he enrolled in a boarding school in Poděbrady. It was a prestigious institution where children of war victims studied alongside the offspring of communist officials and wealthier capitalists. Among his classmates was the future president, Václav Havel. After failing the entrance exams for theatre faculty in Prague, he eventually studied screenwriting at the Film Academy. It was the 1960s, and every dialogue had to be carefully approved by the Communist Party. Art was dominated by propaganda. However, the so-called new wave of young Czech filmmakers, including Forman, had different plans for cinema. He first gained significant attention with the film Audition. The movie, about a singing audition, had no strong plotline, but fascinated audiences with its authenticity. One of the participants was the young actress Vera Křesadlová, who captivated Forman. And before long, the already once divorced director was expecting twins with her. In his following films, Forman continues working with non-actors, using them to highlight the absurdity of ordinary life. After the black and white films Black Peter and Loves of a Blonde, he releases his first color film, The Fireman's Ball. It becomes a hit, even abroad. The film even earns an Oscar nomination for Best Foreign Language Film.
Oni, jděte na scénu, kousek!
Teď já tady stojím proto, aby neviděl, jak mu hoří barák! Taky ho na to necháte koukat!
Otočte ho aspoň! Jděte to blbý! Tak se jenom otočte! Sedněte, pomalu! No, teď se tam stejně dívá!
Miloš Forman is now a well-known name, but then comes the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968, and creative freedom once again disappears. Forman, along with his wife Vera and their twins Peter and Matěj, moves to Paris. However, he is unable to find work there, so when American producers offer him the chance to direct Taking Off, he eagerly accepts. Even though Vera decides to return to Prague with the children, he moves to the United States alone.
This is a joint. The joint has two ends. Take the joint with the open end facing you, firmly between your thumb and index fingers, like this.
After the initial excitement, Forman quickly faces a harsh reality in America. The local audience and critics receive the film with only lukewarm reactions. As was typical for Forman's style, the story seems to simply stop rather than follow a traditional dramatic climax, something American viewers are used to. Along with this creative setback, he also experiences personal hardship. It is 1971, and Miloš Forman is alone in New York, a metropolis where a few office buildings hold as many people as his hometown of Čáslav. He has no money and is living on credit at the Chelsea Hotel. Yet, he refuses to return home as a failure. Instead, he asks the communists to extend his exit permit. The Czechoslovak government agrees, but only if he collects the documents in person in Prague. He realizes that it's a trap. They would not let him return back to America. He decides to stay, even without the necessary papers, permanently closing the door to his homeland. Fortunately, 1975 is approaching, bringing the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and a turning point in Forman's career. When producer Michael Douglas was searching for the right director, the approach of a man from Eastern Europe captivated him. While other candidates dodged questions in the typical American way and refused to reveal any details without a contract, Forman was completely open.
We were a little nervous because we heard he had not left the Chelsea Hotel in over a year. But here he is, he comes on out and he sat down on page 1.
Thanks to this, and possibly also due to his difficult situation, which suggested he would take the job even for a lower fee, he was ultimately the one who took the direction. The film, starring Jack Nicholson and Louise Fletcher, instantly became a box office hit. The script is not only a gripping story set in a psychiatric hospital, but also an allegory of totalitarianism. And that was something Forman understood better than anyone else.
Chief! The chief! Ah! Chief! There's Ratchet! There's Ratchet! Look! Look! The chief put his hand up! The chief put his hand up. Look, he voted. Would you please turn the television set on?
Into the television.
The chief has got his hand up right there. The chief voted. Now, will you please turn the television set on?
Mr. McMurphy, the meeting was adjourned and the vote was closed.
But the vote was 10-8. The chief, he's got his hand up. Look!
No, Mr. McMurphy. When the meeting was adjourned, the vote was 9-9.
Ah, come on. You're not gonna say that now. You're not gonna say that now. You're gonna pull that henhouse shit now. When the vote the chief just voted, it was 10-9. Now I want that television set turned on right now!
The film received a total of 9 Oscar nominations, and given the situation in Czechoslovakia, it was almost unbelievable that Forman's 11-year-old twins were granted permission to travel to the award ceremony. Although both boys slept through most of the event, they still witnessed a historic moment.
Miloš Forman.
Their father's film won Academy Awards in all 5 major categories: Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture. Before this, Only It Happened One Night in 1934 had achieved the same feat, and later, The Silence of the Lambs in 1992. After this phenomenal success, Forman directed the brilliant but not particularly profitable musical Hair, followed by the drama Ragtime. However, his greatest achievement was still ahead. At the end of 1979, Forman is in London when his agent calls and invites him to the theatre. The director agrees, but when he finds out in the taxi that the play is about Mozart, he nearly gets out. He had seen plenty of productions about composers back in Czechoslovakia, and they were always boring. However, what he witnesses that night in London, the play Amadeus by British playwright Peter Shaffer, completely captivates him. He decides that this story must be brought to the big screen. From the very beginning, he knows he wants to film in Czechoslovakia. The desire to return home is overwhelming. And the local authorities, enticed by US dollars, eventually agree to shoot the Hollywood epic in socialist Czechoslovakia. Perhaps because of this, Amadeus is created in the form we know today.
I think he functioned as he doesn't function all the time. He was in his element. He was at home.
Forman also brought several Czechs onto the team. Miroslav Ondřiček handled the cinematography. Theodor Pistek designed the costumes, and Karel Černý contributed to the production design.
Next measure's rising. You have it?
Yes, I
Show
think
me.
so.
It's wonderful.
So when the day after the 1985 Academy Awards, American newspapers wrote about Czechs conquering Hollywood, it was no exaggeration. The film won in 8 categories, and the Czechs, Forman, Černý, and Pistek, claimed 3 of them.
I'm very proud because this is an American movie on which a lot of Czechoslovakian artists and technicians collaborated.
This is probably the greatest moment of Forman's career. It will continue for more than 30 years, during which he will direct films like The People vs. Larry Flynt and Goya's Ghosts. He will marry for the third time and become the father of another set of twins, Andy and Jim. He will also continue teaching at Columbia University, and in 2009, together with his older sons, he will be involved in the staging of Jiří Suchý and Jiří Schlitter's jazz opera, A Well-Paid Walk at the National Theatre in Prague. However, what he achieved in the 1980s with Amadeus, that happens only once in a lifetime. He created a masterpiece and, at the same time, made his homeland famous. And he did it not with the help of the regime of the time, but in spite of it.